Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Caroline. Hi.
Hey, nice to see you again.
Ugh.
You
Hi.
okay? You okay now?
I don't know, losing my voice for some reason.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm not sick or anything.
good, good.
Right. So, I was gonna record this session, but on my screen it says this meeting was set to be recorded and transcribed automatically. So I don't
Yeah,
have to do any recording.
apparently not.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw that as well, yeah.
Okay, so you see it on the screen
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So will you be doing most of the talking?
I think so. I think
Okay.
so. Yes. What I think I've not actually spoken to him in the last couple of days, so I think it would be good, yes, maybe if I at least start, and then there are other things perhaps that he may want to say towards the end or to interject. That's absolutely
Okay.
fine. Do you think there'll be questions as well?
I'm pretty sure there'll be
Good.
questions, at least from the Taiwan agents and students. Oh, yeah. So
Lovely.
yeah, so this is for the whole East team. So
Sure.
basically, I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of Indonesian and Vietnamese agents are joining us, and some from Malaysia and Hong Kong as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
That's good.
So do I need to introduce you, or do you want to just start by yourself?
As you would normally do. I don't mind. I really don't mind.
Maybe you can just start because it's not just for Taiwanese agents. So
Sure. Okay. Well, we've got a few minutes anyway, haven't we?
yeah, like 6-7 minutes. So yeah.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll put the slides up already so that we can see them. Just as a starter, I'll share my page. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and I think it's already recording now.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, yeah, it's fine.
Just checking the clock. But 1 more minute, perhaps. We'll wait for 1 more minute and then. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I think it's time.
Okay, so welcome to our interactive session. My name is Caroline Michel. I am the Centre Director for ONCAMPUS Paris, and we are working in partnership with Kedge Business School. So I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to everybody, or as we say in French, bienvenue. Bienvenue means welcome. So thank you very much for joining today. We're going to be talking about various things, really. The idea of this session today is to talk about Kedge Business School, what it's like to be a student in Kedge, in Paris, in France. I'd like to give you some information about internship opportunities. We will talk also about ONCAMPUS Paris, what to do when you've received your acceptance letter, what are the next procedures. We'll talk about accommodation, about the visa process, and then various other aspects about being a student in France and what support we can give you from now until you arrive, and then what it's going to be like when you actually arrive, when students arrive in Paris, what's going to happen in the first few days, and then a little bit about campus life and student activities. Okay, and of course there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. So this should take about 30 minutes, I think, for me to talk through the presentation. So first of all, I think people know a little bit about Paris, about France, and they imagine all sorts of things. And one of the things that you imagine is maybe you've heard of Emily in Paris. So this is a very famous Netflix production with Emily, who lives, she's an American, she lives in Paris and has these extraordinary experiences. And you can see all the beautiful sights of Paris through this series. I hope that students will perhaps have seen some of the show. It gives you a very good idea of what it's like to walk around Paris. I don't, of course, it's a series, so it's not 100% daily life, but it's a fun thing to see, and Paris itself is beautiful in any case. So Paris is obviously the capital of France, and it's home to many famous football clubs. Maybe you know Paris Saint-Germain. France is famous for food also. So we always encourage students to try all the different foods when they get here. So macaroons, croissant, baguette, all sorts of nice, delicious foods that they can try too. We also think that students should try to discover Paris as a native, and therefore to go out as much as possible, go to the museums, go to the cafes, and the shops, of course. and to see the monuments and sites of Paris, because there are many, and it is a beautiful city to be a student in. Apart from Paris itself, I think students should always ask themselves these questions. So, do I want to be in the heart of Europe? Do I want to study in English? Do I want to learn another language? Do I want to have a world-class education? Do I want to live in an innovative economic environment? Do I want a rich experience, a rich culture, and great diversity? Do I want to grow in the cradle of human rights? And do I want to study in a welcoming nation to international students? These are all things that France is very good at. So if you look at a map of France, you see that it is in the heart of Europe. And there are so many other countries that are very, very close by. So it's possible to go to the UK, to Belgium, to Germany, to the Netherlands, to Italy, to Spain, to many, many other countries within 1, 2, or 3 hours of a train ride. So you really can, you will be in the heart of Europe. All our classes are taught in English, Kedge Business School as well. Most of their classes, most of their programs are taught in English, and all the programs that international students would want to study are taught 100% in English. You will, of course, learn another language. You will learn French. You can be a beginner, you can already have some French, it doesn't matter, but you will learn just by living here. And also we will help you, we will teach you. We will teach you the basics of French so you can survive. You can survive when you go to the supermarket or when you go out and about to visit museums. You'll have at least some French. By the end of the year, you should be fairly proficient. Kedge Business School is a world-class institution. So your degree, when you graduate from Kedge Business School, you will have an internationally recognized qualification, which in France is in the top 10, the top 9, top 8 institutions in France for business. So it's an excellent business school. You will live in a very innovative country. So there are many inventions. It's an entrepreneur country as well. So if you want to start up your own business, this is a good place to come and start a business. France is encouraging students to come to France in order to create value, to be an entrepreneur, to create your own company. It's a very rich culture. So the history of France is very old. There are many, many things to do and to see, to understand and learn more about the history and the culture of France and Europe. But it's also very diverse. So France is extremely welcoming, very welcoming to international students and to people from all around the world. Human rights declaration was invented, if you like, in France. And as I've already said, it is a really welcoming place to come and study for international students. You will find many other students like you and also different to you who have also made the decision to come to study in France. So where are we based? This you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see the map of central Paris, and you can see the main monuments, so Sacré-Cœur, the Louvre, Notre Dame, Musée d'Orsay, and the Eiffel Tower, of course. And if you look, the river cuts the city into two parts. And on the bottom right-hand side of the map, you will see ONCAMPUS. This is where ONCAMPUS Paris is based, and also Kedge Business School. So we're based inside the building that Kedge owns. So you can see the photos on the right-hand side. The top photo is a picture of Bercy, which is the region in Paris, where we're based, and it has a beautiful gardens. So there is water, there are lots of trees, and you can hardly hear the traffic when you're in the gardens. It's a lovely place to go and chill, to have a walk, to have a rest, to have lunch, perhaps. And it is 5 minutes walk from Kedge Business School. The second photo you can see is Kedge. It's not only Kedge Business School. This building is a huge building, and it is home to many, many multinational corporations. It's also home to the Ministry of the Interior, and of course, Kedge Business School. So Kedge has 4 floors within this building. And so you will, I don't know if you've been able to see the video before the presentation. So you'll see the inside of the building, and I'll show you more photos in a few minutes. So it's a very modern building. It's in a business district. Bercy district is a business district, which means that there are many, many companies. And these companies don't just work alongside Kedge, they work with Kedge. So there are many guest speakers who come from these large corporations, and they'll talk to the students about their experiences. They also offer internships to students. And again, I'll talk about that in a little more detail in a few minutes. And the final photo is also Bercy Village, and you can see that vegetables are grown there as well. Local residents can grow their own food if they want to in the gardens. Bercy Village is also a big shopping centre. So this is a regenerated part of the city. It's very old, but it's also very modern in places. So the central photo, you can see there are a series of old buildings, and these have been renovated, and now they're cafes, bars, restaurants, shops, and they are in Bercy Village, very, very close to Kedge Business School, which you can see on the right-hand side. That again is part of the Lumière building where Kedge is based. Just a tiny little bit about higher education in France. There are different kinds of universities in France. So we have public universities, and these are very similar to the universities that you will have in your own home country. But we also have specialist schools, and these can be public or private, and they train students for very specific careers. So for example, in the arts or in architecture, social work, tourism. And then we have the Grande École. Now, the Grande École, these are, in English, I suppose they are called high schools, or they are very, very selective. They're private institutions. They are extremely similar to the universities in some ways, in the degrees that they offer. They are all recognized degrees by the Ministry of Education, in the same way that a university or a specialist school would also have. But these tend to be Grande École that are subject-based. So you have a Grande École in business or a Grande École in engineering. And Kedge Business School is a Grande École, teaching business subjects, a wide range of business subjects. French students, if they want to go to study in a Grande École, it's very competitive. This means that they have to have the best grades at their baccalaureate or their high school diploma. They will then be selected for interview, and they will be selected for an exam, a competitive entry exam. Once they have passed the competitive exam, then they will do an interview, and only then they may be given a place in a Grande École. Now, the big advantage that international students have is that they can access Grande École either via ONCAMPUS Paris, so through a foundation program, or through direct entry to a grande école, to Kedge Business School. And the students do not need to do this competitive entrance exam. They will have an interview, but the interview is fairly straightforward. And again, I will talk about that interview in a few minutes. So international students have a huge advantage of gaining access to Kedge Business School in a way that French students do not have. And this is one thing I think that's very important to know, because in France, they are so competitive that only about 1% of the population of students will be able to go to a grande école. International students have much more access. Ketch Business School, as I said, is a grande école. It is recognized as excellent education because it has a triple accreditation. So EQUIS, AACSB, and AMBA. And this ranks the university, Kedge Business School, as one of the best business schools in Europe. It's extremely international. So when you come in through the doors, you immediately feel that you're in a very business-like environment. It's very modern, very bright. Everything is of a very high quality. So even the classrooms are of a very good standard, very good quality. And I will show you some photos of those in a few minutes. It's extremely international. You will hear English being spoken in the corridors. English is taught in the classroom. English is the medium of instruction as well. So if you're learning about finance or you're learning about marketing, your classes will be in English. The students in the classroom will be very mixed. Some will be French and some will be international. Kedge has a lot of cooperation, a lot of partners with other universities throughout the world. So some students come for an exchange for 6 months or 1 year to Ketch. So you will find that there are degree students on the campus, but there are also exchange students here. And it creates a lovely, vibrant atmosphere, very international. People do things in different ways. They think differently in different cultures. And it's really nice to be able to explore these differences. And by doing that in the classroom and outside, it makes students very adaptable, very tolerant, and very caring and very curious about others. And these are some of the skills that companies want in the graduates that they will employ. So whether you realize it or not, by coming to study in a foreign country, in France, at Kedge, you are helping your career, because you will be one of those tolerant, open-minded people that companies will really want to employ once you have graduated. All students will do internships. And if you are an undergraduate student, so you're looking for a bachelor degree, you will have an internship every year. So at the end of your year 1, you have the opportunity to do an internship. At the end of year 2 and year 3, there are internships as well. And this means that by the time you graduate, you will have more than 1 year total of experience of working in one or several companies. These internships are paid. They are paid a minimum of about 800 euros per month. And so it won't cover the total cost of living expenses, but it certainly goes a long way to help. And this is the law in France. Every internship over 3 months in duration must be paid. Also, the internships are of graduate level, so it means that you will be doing meaningful work. You will most likely be given a project, a project that can be done within 4 or 5 months, and you will follow it from the beginning to the end. And again, this is hugely beneficial to students because they learn by doing things. And this is something that Kedge believes in very deeply, and that helps students in their personal and professional development. Because in the future, everybody has to manage a project. And in order to be able to do that, you need to know a lot of soft skills, which you will learn in the classroom, but then you will practice them through internships. One very good thing to know also is that on graduation, depending on the degree that you've studied, students, about 95 to 98% of students are employed within 6 months of graduation. So that is a fantastic percentage. And the average starting salary will be between 40 to 45,000 euros, again, depending on the type of degree that you have chosen. So these are very good starting salaries. You can see the map on the right-hand side of France. So Paris is fairly far north in France, and right down on the south coast, you can see Marseille. So Ketch Business School has several campuses, one in Paris, one in Marseille, and another one in Bordeaux. So students can choose which campus they would like to study in. And sometimes it will depend on where you would prefer to study. If you want to be in the capital, choose Paris. If you want to study wine, for example, then Bordeaux would be your main choice. If you want to study the IBBA, so the International Bachelor of Business Administration, that is taught in Marseille. Some of the degrees are specifically taught in one location, and very often they are taught in 2 or 3 different locations. So you have the choice of where you want to study. So here you see some pictures of the main campuses. They do have others, but these are the biggest campuses, and we think this is where most international students would want to study. So Bordeaux campus is very modern, and on the inside, every campus has the same feel and look. They use the same furniture, the same colors, and the decoration. So you see the Paris campus and the Marseille campus as well. Lots of open spaces for students to work on their own. There are small classrooms, tiny classrooms, where you can sit 4 or 5 students. These are not classrooms, they are for study. So students will have projects to work on, and they can book these rooms and work on their projects together, prepare presentations. And then, of course, there are larger classrooms for face-to-face teaching. Everything is very online. So I wouldn't say that it's 100% no paper, but that is the objective. So everything should be online. All your classes will not be online, but they will be electronically stored. So when you have finished the class, you will have access to the class again because it will be recorded. You will also have notes that have been given by your teacher. These are electronically available. If you want to book a room to study, this is done electronically as well through the system. So you don't need paper at all, but it does mean that everyone needs a computer. And you need to have either a Mac or a PC. That doesn't really matter, but it needs to be fairly recent. And at OnCampus, you will have access through OnCampus, you will have access to the Office suite. So you will have access to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, And these we use, of course, every day in our teaching and in our learning. And it's the same in Kedge. So Kedge has certain values. They also have things that they think are really important for students to make students employable. And they talk a lot about student employability. So one thing, of course, is work experience. And this can be through internships. It can also be through entrepreneurship, a student who wants to start up their own business. Kedge will help these students. There are also lots of different workshops that take place throughout studies, and these help the students to think about themselves and how they will be as managers and leaders in the future. This is a program of which will help the student discover more about their personality, their own managerial style. And all of these are very important, of course, for graduation, so that a student can find a very good job at the end of it. Learning by doing. This is another thing that Kedge and at OnCampus we're very, very convinced by. So it's one thing to learn, but it's another thing to actually do and to practice. So we have a lot of projects, and some of these projects are very small. Some of them are very complex, and they will gradually build up to being more complex. And it mirrors the kind of things that a student would be doing in a business. So you have to plan your time. You have to do certain activities in a certain order. So you need to plan and prepare. And all of these activities, even if it's for an academic project, it actually trains the student to be a manager in the future. Every year, Kedge has more than 2,700 internships that students do. Now, Kedge receives more internship offers from companies than the number of students. This means that there are internships available for everyone. It's important that the student chooses quickly what company they would like to work for, and then they would have to apply for those internships. But Kedge will help and prepare the student for these internships. And these are the values that Kedge find extremely important for its students. So they require students to have high standards for themselves, but also high standards for their teachers. So they expect their teachers to also have high standards. Commitment is very important. So this means if you say you will do something, you do it. They would like all students to graduate to be open-minded. It's very important for business in the future, and simply as human beings, I think also to just be open-minded. Integrity, of course, is very important, and humility also. So the fact that you can say to your boss, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, that is humility, and that's okay. You know that if you make a mistake, you own up, you say, I made the mistake. That's okay. You learn from that mistake and then you do things differently the next time. So these are all values of Kedge Business School. And of course, Kedge, as our partner, we also have at OnCampus those same standards. If we turn to OnCampus Paris, we have two pathway programs, and these lead to either the bachelor degrees at Kedge Business School or the master's programs at Kedge Business School. So for the foundation program, a student will need a minimum of 4.5 IELTS, and they will finish the program with 5.5, which is sufficient for Kedge Business School to then accept the student. During the studies, you will study a range of different business subjects, and also English and French. You will need to pass the program with 50% minimum plus 5.5 equivalent IELTS. You will not need to take IELTS again. And then there is an interview at Kedge Business School, and then you can be accepted. For the pre-master's program, it is fairly similar in structure. So English and French, and then a range of business subjects, but these are much more focused on research, because as a master's student, you need to know how to do research. So we are training the students to do this research, different ways of doing it, qualitative, quantitative types of research. Students who do this program and then go to Kedge, they find that it's so much easier for them at Kedge because they already know how to do a research project. So students will start with a minimum of 5.0 IELTS with us, and we will expect them to, at the end of the pre-master's program, to complete with 6.0 IELTS equivalent. We don't need, again, the students to actually take another IELTS test. Students need to pass our program with 50% and also an interview at Kedge Business School, and then they are able to join their master's degree of their choice. So students are, at this time of year, have received an offer letter, so congratulations. That's the first thing to say. Well done. There's still a little bit of work to do. So what do I need to do now? First of all, you need to accept your offer. So in order to accept the offer, you will follow the instructions. Follow the instructions in your offer letter, and you will need to pay your deposit. Once that is done, you will receive a certificate of registration. And this does not come from ONCAMPUS Paris, it comes from our central admissions team. You will need to make sure that you have a passport. And it's surprising how many students, they look at their passport and they, oh, it's only valid for another 6 months. So please make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months after you finish your on-campus program or after you finish the first year of Kedge Business School. This is really important. So if you need to renew your passport, that's the first thing you need to do. You also need to find accommodation. And I will talk a little more in detail about accommodation in a minute or two. So in order to apply for your visa, you need accommodation. Without somewhere to live, you cannot apply for the visa. So we have different options available to students on different budgets. That's absolutely fine. I'll talk about that in a minute. You also need to be able to prove that you have enough money to be able to live and to pay for your studies. So this, again, can be done in a variety of different ways, and I know that your counsellors will be able to help you with all of this. Then you need to apply for your visa. And again, we will talk a bit more in detail about that. And then you need to start thinking of your arrival in France. So buying a plane ticket, where you're going to stay, what you need to pack in your suitcase. Of those things in a few minutes. Okay, so you've received your offer letter and you've accepted your offer letter. Now, the first thing you need to do is to find some accommodation. Now, there are lots of different options, but you need to bear in mind that Paris is a capital city. It is quite expensive, and it's also very competitive to try to find accommodation, because there are lots of students, all like you, all needing accommodation for September. So on campus, we manage rooms in 2 different accommodations, 2 different student residences. We have visited these residences and we know that they are very appropriate for students. They're really nice. I think, in fact, that the kitchen in both of them is nicer than in my own flat in Paris. So the first one is called Noe Campus, and this accommodation is also run by Kedge Business School. So you will find at Noe Campus that there are 4 buildings, and you will find students from Kedge Business School and also from OnCampus, and maybe also a few other students from other universities. So UFirst is the same. It's very nice, very modern, very new also. Not so many Kedge students, but there are international students and French students, again, from all over the world. Both of these residences, the staff speak English. We suggest that for your first year, whether you are studying at OnCampus or directly at Kedge, that you choose one of these managed accommodations. The reason for that is that we have rooms. We have reserved rooms especially for our students. So it's easy for you to say, I want a room in Noe Campus or in UFirst, and we can book that for you or with you. Another reason why it's important perhaps to think about studying, working and living on managed accommodation is that you will be with other students. You will be with Kedge students, on-campus students. So you make friends. You make friends much more easily. And it's part of the student experience also to have a student life. It's not all about work. But don't tell my teachers that. If you choose to try to find accommodation by yourself, it is more challenging because many of the private landlords don't necessarily speak English and they will require more paperwork. And this is something that we can't really help you with. So unless you speak French, it is going to be more difficult, I think, to find accommodation. I would suggest that you choose on-campus managed accommodation for the first year. And then when you know some French, you know more people, you may decide for your second year to then go to a private landlord. And some of our students have done that, and others have chosen to stay at UFirst or Noe because they like it. It's a good, safe student environment. So why move? The other thing you need to do is when you've chosen your accommodation, you need to buy insurance. And our accommodation team will send you the link to the French website where you need to buy insurance on your accommodation. This is not medical insurance. This is insurance for where you are living. And it's your private, it's just in case you break something. If you break a chair or you break a cup, your insurance will cover that. It also covers you personally if somebody else breaks something in your room. So it is mandatory. You must buy this insurance. And the residences will not give you your key unless you can prove that you have your insurance. So those are the first 2 things. Find accommodation, and then the second one is to buy insurance. Now here is a picture of the Noe campus and their website as well. So you can see the website address here. The rooms are of different sizes. So some of them will be single beds. You will always have a desk. You will have space to put your clothes and your books and your own personal items. You will also have a small kitchen, and a little bathroom. So you can choose to either be in an 18 square meter studio apartment or a sharing apartment. So that's two people sharing a larger space. And it's up to you to choose what you prefer. All the charges are included. So all your water, electricity, internet, everything is included in the cost. So you don't need to open an account with an electricity company. Whereas if you are in a private accommodation, you may need to separately get electricity and water. And so you'll be paying for those on top of the cost of the rent. So this is again another advantage of staying on the managed residences. And this is the Ivry, this is the UFirst campus. Both of them are extremely similar. So you have a study bedroom, you have your own little kitchen and your own bathroom, and there are then shared spaces. So there's a gym, there's a laundry, study spaces, there are games rooms, fitness centers, and of course you can go outside. They are also secure, and this means that only you with your card can enter the building, and only you can enter your bedroom as well. And there is, of course, 24-hour CCTV. Now let's turn to visas. So, like for any other country, the same sort of process applies. France has its own visa process, and I will talk a little more in detail about that in a minute. So you need now, if you're planning on studying in France in September, now is the time to get your visa application in. You will need to pay a fee for the visa, which is 99 euros. And there is an online application in order to submit your visa and then also to book an appointment. This is an interview that you will have with Campus France. And again, I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that in a few minutes. You will need to submit certain documents. As I've already said, you'll pay the fee and you will also give your biometrics. So you'll give your fingerprints. Once you've done that, you will have an interview, then you'll obtain your visa, and then you travel to France. So how do you obtain the visa? The visa that you need is called VLS-TS. And in French, this is Visa Long Séjour, Valant Titre de Séjour. This means it's a long stay visa, and it also gives you the right to live. It's a residence permit, the right to live in France. And with that, you have certain advantages, which again, I'll talk about in a minute. So in order to apply for this VLS-TS, you need your passport, of course. You need some photos, ID photos. You need your certificate of registration, either issued by ONCAMPUS or by Kedge Business School. You also need to provide financial evidence that you can look after yourself financially for 12 months. So the French government says that you need to provide 615 euros per month of financial evidence. We suggest that you may need a little more than that because that is an absolute minimum. If you can show 800, 900, 1,000 per month, that is better. And the kind of documents that you need would be generally parents, sorry, I've just gone onto the wrong slide. Parents or guardians, bank statements that prove that there is regular income coming in to the bank account. So that's an important aspect. And Campus France, if they don't see sufficient evidence, they will say, I'm sorry, you cannot study in France. So this is really important. You also need to provide your accommodation document, so proof that you have somewhere to live. And this is generally your contract, your accommodation contract. This is why you need the accommodation before you can apply for your visa. And then if you are living in a country that is not your country of origin, you also need to provide proof of your residency status. So if I am British and I live in Taiwan, I need my Taiwanese residency permit also, just to show that I live in Taiwan. Okay. All these documents, if they are not in English or French, they do need to be translated. And when you have submitted all your documents and paid the visa application fee, you will be invited for interview. Now, there are different online portals that you can use in order to obtain your visa. And I'll show you something about that in a minute. When you have received your visa, then you can travel. You will need to bring all the supporting documents with you when you arrive in France and you go through immigration. You will need to show your accommodation document and your certificate of registration to show that you really are a student. Once you've arrived in France, you have 3 months to validate your visa. And you do this online, and we do this with you in class. It takes 5 minutes. It's very, very quick and very easy. It just validates the fact that you are in France, and it allows you then to stay for the 12 months. Now, this website is called francevisas.gouv.fr. It is in English, so you can find your way around it straightforwardly. Now, this is the website which gives general information about visas, and it also has links to other websites, and one of them is the Études en France, which sometimes is abbreviated to EEF. Some countries, most countries, allow students to apply for their visas through this EEF website, but not all. Otherwise, you will need to go through a different website, and this is this particular one. So the EEF countries that allow students to, it's a sort of easier route. So I think most of the countries that are represented here today have this easier route through. So you will apply for your visas through EEF website. This is a big page. There is more information available about visas on the link that you can see on the top right-hand side, sorry, top left-hand side of the page. Things that are good to know. You can extend your visa from inside France. So, for example, if you come to study at ONCAMPUS, and then you are going to go to Kedge Business School the following year, you do not need to go to your home country to reapply for a visa for Kedge. You can get your visa extended inside France 3 months before your current visa expires. So you just need to be aware that when you get close to the 3 months, you need to start the procedure of extending your visa. Kedge Business School will help you with that. They have visa specialists who will help students. Last week, they helped our students here, and it makes life much easier. With your student visa, you have the right to work. You can work for up to 964 hours per year. This works out at about 20 hours a week. So it doesn't have to be per week, though. You may decide not to work at all during term time, but you may then decide during the summer holidays that you would like to work full-time, and that's okay, provided you don't go over the maximum number of hours. In France, we have a minimum wage. So you cannot be paid under 10 €57 per hour. This is the absolute minimum. Most students will be paid a little bit more than that. There are also many different opportunities for students depending on what they want to do when they've graduated. So this is after Kedge. Some students may choose to stay in France because they are wanting to study further, or because they are wanting to work in France. So it's easy to switch from a student visa to a temporary worker permit. And this is generally given for 1 year or sometimes 2 years, depending on where you're from, but also the kind of work that you'll be doing. Any student who wants to create a company, they can apply for a visa, which is called a talent passport or business creation. And this allows a student who has graduated to stay in France in order to work, to create a company, or to take over a company. So it's really very flexible. There are lots of opportunities for students to stay in France once they've graduated. Another thing to check when a student is applying for the visa, on the Études en France, the EEF website, you need to look for the right program, the program that you want to study. Now, we at ONCAMPUS we are under Kedge, so you need to actually search for Kedge Business School. So here you can see a screenshot. I look for programs on the top right-hand side, and you can write Kedge in the search. When you do that, you find a drop-down list of different programs. And if you look in the taught in English, the bottom one is préparation aux études. These are preparation for higher study in France. And you have International Foundation Program Year 1 and International Pre-Masters Program Year 1. And you can click on that, and then that is stored in the EEF website so that they know what program you are studying. But you do need to look for Kedge first. The key to university is the visa and the Kedge interview. Now, people feel a little scared about these interviews because they don't know what to expect. But if you use your common sense and you prepare, the interviews are easy. Even if your English is not perfect, that's okay, because you can explain, my English is not perfect, but I am studying in France, or I want to study in France, in order to perfect my English and my French. You can explain everything during the visa and the Kedge interview, and they are very, very similar. So you are likely to have questions about what you have done up to now. So maybe the interviewer, and this will all be in English, it will not be in French, okay? So the visa interview and the Kedge interview, they will ask you about what you have done up to now. And this, you should try to give as full an answer as possible. So maybe you'll say, well, I was at high school and I studied economics and I studied history, but I really preferred the business subjects. And this is why I wanted to take my studies further by studying business. You could also talk about a bachelor degree if you're intending to study for a master's degree. But you need to give some information that is coherent and logical so that it makes sense to the interviewer, that there is a timeline, so that I did one thing and that leads to something else, and that then leads to wanting to study in France. And this is really important because for Campus France, for Études en France, the EEF, people, they really want to know why you are passionate about coming to study in France, and why France. That is another question that they will ask. You can say because it's very romantic. And this is something that a lot of people know or think they know about France. Oh, it's a romantic country. And that's true. It is a romantic country. Many people they choose to get married when they come and visit France. Maybe they come with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and then they decide to get married because it's such a romantic place, and it makes you think of things like that. But there are also many other reasons, and I think you need to show the interviewer that you know a little bit about France. Now, this could be from a business perspective, so you know about some companies in France and you admire those companies and you would like to know more about them, maybe even have an internship or a job working in one of these companies. You may think also that you know about French culture or art, or you want the opportunity of living in Europe. And France is a good destination for that because it's a very welcoming country to international students. You need to find a reason that is coherent and logical to you. So it may be something, maybe you've seen a film or read books that talk about France or talk about Paris, or something that can show that you're really interested in coming to study in France and not another country. You could also say that I had opportunities to study in the UK or the US, but I chose France because I want to do something different. All my friends are going to America. I didn't want to be like everybody. I want to do something different. Again, a very good answer. They will also ask you why you choose Kedge Business School. There are many good answers to that. I suggest you look at the website, look at Kedge's website. They will give you lots of good reasons why. Maybe you could say because of the ranking. It's a very highly ranked institution, has a very good reputation. Degree is perhaps one that you are interested in, a specific degree. If you're interested in data analytics, you chose Kedge because they have an excellent data analytics program. Or if you're looking at a bachelor program, because you know that there will be internships that are built into the program, and this is fantastic for your future career. And at a grande école like Kedge, opportunities that you will have at Kedge you would not get at a public university in France. That's again another good reason why you chose Kedge. What other kinds of questions? Yes, they may ask you about what do you know about France, about Paris, about French culture. So make sure that you know something about France, about its economy, perhaps, or about the culture. You're very interested in certain artists, and you'd be able to go and visit the museums in Paris. You want to experience living in France while studying in English, and this is something that you can do in Ketch. There are many reasons, I think, many things that you do know or that you can find out about France. But if you say, I know nothing, that's not good. The interviewer is likely to say, okay, if you know nothing about France, you don't get the visa. It's important that you find out, that you have a good reason why you want to be in France. Do you speak French? They may ask you. Now, this is okay, and it's not a trick question. It's okay to say no. It's fine. I don't speak French, but I really want to learn. I really want to learn some French. And I know that at ONCAMPUS, I will be taught French. I know that at Kedge Business School, I will be taught French. And the French will then allow me to integrate better into French society with French friends, mix more with French students, go to the cinema, understand films in French. So again, there are lots of reasons why you should be learning French. And it's okay to say, no, I don't yet speak French, but I will in the future. And it's something that I am looking forward to doing. You may also be asked why you chose a particular program. Why did you choose the Kedge Bachelor? So maybe you've chosen. So if you have chosen to study it on campus, you chose the program because you know that it will facilitate your access to Kedge Business School. It will make you eligible to study at Kedge. You know also that there are maybe some specificities of the program that you've chosen. Maybe a master's degree. You cannot study that kind of master's in your home country. That's why you've chosen France, why you've chosen Kedge for this particular program. Internships, very international. These are all good reasons also why you choose a specific program. And then they're likely to ask you, not always, but sometimes, what subjects did you prefer and dislike? They're just trying to get to know you more as a person. And if you can say, well, I preferred the business subjects, it makes sense. If you say, oh, I really didn't like economics, it makes no sense then to be choosing to go to a business school. Okay? You can say that you didn't like history, you didn't like other subjects, but I think it's best to stay positive. So it's not really about what you didn't like, it's about what you did like. They'll also most likely ask you about what you like to do in your free time, your spare time. So if you can try to think about things that are going to be attractive to Kedge Business School. What do they value in a person? If you say, I stay in my room and I read, or I play video games online, this Kedge that you are solitary, that you don't really like to go out with friends. And this is not really the kind of person that they want to recruit, because they need somebody who can be a team player. So if you can say that you like team sports, or you like to do things as a group with other people, that you have organized maybe a party, or you go bowling with your friends, or something that shows that you are a team player. I think this is important, specifically for Kedge. And then, of course, the final question will be about the future. What do you want to do in the future? And it is okay to say, I don't know. It's very reasonable. When you are 18, you don't know what you'll be doing in 10 years' time. But you can have a vague idea. So your plans may be, well, I want to graduate from the Kedge bachelor degree. I think I need to study for a master's degree also to improve my knowledge, to become a specialist. And at the moment, I'm really interested in marketing, digital marketing, and how we use technology to market products to customers. So the plans are quite vague, but you have an idea. Okay. So if you're a master's student, well, I've finished my bachelor degree and I want to study at Kedge to study data analytics because I'm really interested in numbers and how they can help us to make business decisions that will help the senior management in their strategy for the company. So what I would like to do is I want to graduate from Kedge. And then I want to stay in France. I want to find a job after my internship as a data analyst. And I would like to stay in that job for maybe 5 years, gradually working up the ladder to become a senior leader. Maybe you can talk about the kind of company that you would like to work in as well. So not just I want to work in a company, but I want to work in an engineering company or in manufacturing or in business to business type of industry. Or I'm very interested in medical supplies. One student said to me during an interview, during COVID, I realized how important it was that products, goods, were able to travel around the world. And that made her realize how important it was, the subject of logistics and the supply chain. So you can talk in terms of quite vague, but also you do need to have a plan. Even if it's not 100% what you will do in the future, talk about what you would like to do in the future, your dream, and make it quite precise. Values. Always bear in mind what the values of Kedge are. So Kedge are looking for people who are open-minded, that they have a team spirit, that they're committed, they have integrity, and they have high standards. And if you can somehow show during the interview that you have these things, or that you can develop these things, then you are much more likely to be accepted by Kedge Business School. Okay. In terms of support, what do we do in order to help you, the students? So we have a team here at ONCAMPUS, and it's exactly the same in Kedge Business School. So first of all, it's important to know that we want you to succeed. We want to make your lives as easy as possible, to facilitate things wherever we can. So we will organize a series of meetings online with you, the students, and your counselors and parents as well, if you wish, so that you get to know us before you arrive in France. So we will hold meetings so that you can meet us, the team. You can also meet each other, meet other classmates. You can also we can invite some of our current students to talk to you, and they can tell you what it's like being a student here themselves. And that, I think, is very beneficial. It's something we did last week with some Indian students, and it worked very well. So we have a dedicated team who are here to answer any question you have, and this can be before you arrive, and of course during your entire year that you spend with us at OnCampus. Exactly the same at Kedge Business School. There is a team of non-teaching staff who are here to make sure that you do the things that you need to do at the right time, but also if you have any questions about anything, we can help you with those. When you arrive, there are certain things that you need to do. There are administrative tasks, like you can apply for housing benefit or social security. You need to register with a doctor. All of these things we will help you with, specifically in the first week, but then also we will remind you throughout the first term, have you applied for housing benefit? Have you registered with a doctor? And if no, we will help you do that. Okay. So the teaching team support you academically. These are the teachers. And because our class sizes are quite small, we know the students very well, and we can see if the student is struggling, if they have a few issues in one particular area, and we can help that student individually. We will give you a lot of feedback. So, and the feedback is positive feedback. The idea being that when you submit a piece of work, if there's improvement, you can always improve a piece of work. So the teachers will always say, in order to get a better grade, this is what you need to do. So next time you then have a project or a piece of work to submit to the teacher, you can read the feedback and say, yes, I know what to do to get a better grade now. I know how to write in a better style, how to organize my ideas in an essay, things like that. So we're here really to support you, and we want you to succeed. We want you to go to Ketch. We want you to graduate from Kedge, and then of course succeed in your life by finding the dream job that you want. There are some good financial benefits also of studying in France, and these are all things that we will help you with. So sometimes you'll hear students talk about the CAF, and this is, you'll recognize the logo once you get to France. It's housing benefit. So you are paying to live in a student residence. The French government will help you with the cost of that, but you need to apply for it. So once you arrive in France, you can apply for the CAF, and you need to open a bank account. That's the first thing that you need to do. Again, we'll help you with that. And then when you have your bank account and you've applied for the housing benefit, the French government will give you money back directly into your account. And this can be up to about 200 euros a month. And this helps you to pay for your accommodation or your living expenses. You can do what you like with it, in fact. The next thing that you need is health insurance. So when you have your visa, you're eligible for free health insurance in France, but you need to apply for a number. This is your health insurance number. And in the middle, you see the green card. It's called Vital. And you apply for this card and it arrives in your postbox. And then every time you go to see the doctor or you need to get some medication, you can use this card. You need to pay to see the doctor, and then the money is reimbursed back into your bank account. If you have a serious illness, you do not pay in any case. When you go to the hospital, things like that, you do not pay. And finally, you also need a transport card. And this is called a Navigo card in Paris. And it allows you to travel around Paris, central Paris, for a monthly fee. Some students choose to pay for the year in one go. Some students pay every month. And in any case, students pay 50%. They don't need to pay the full cost of their transport. If you have a monthly card, it will cost you about 40 euros a month. I'm not a student, I pay 80. So a student has a 50% reduction, which again is great. Now, what will happen when you arrive in France. So you arrive at the airport, probably the Charles de Gaulle airport, and you will get to your accommodation, you'll pick up your key. Now, we suggest that you do that the week before classes start, and ideally not at a weekend. Why not at a weekend? Because accommodation, the student residences, they prefer students to arrive Monday to Friday. It's easier for them. So if you can arrive, for example, on the Wednesday or the Thursday before Monday, 25th of September, that would be ideal. And then it gives you 3, 4, 5 days to adjust to a new time zone, to buy all the things that you need that you've forgotten. The residences have bedding, so that you don't need to take sheets or pillows or cutlery, knives and forks. You don't need to buy those, nor plates, nor saucepan. Everything is included. But you may find, I've forgotten an adapter, so you need to buy your adapter. There may be a few things like food you will want to go and discover the local supermarkets, and maybe even supermarkets, specialist ones from where you come from, so that you can buy and cook your home food. It's always nice and comforting to have food from your hometown, maybe. And then you need to be ready for the 25th of September to arrive at Kedge Business School for 9 o'clock, and we will start enrolling students. Now, this timetable is for the first week, and it may change slightly. We haven't 100% decided, but this is generally what the orientation week will look like. So enrollment takes some time, so you will be given a time slot to come for enrollment. So maybe the first day you will need to arrive for 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock, depending on when we can enroll you. And then on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will gradually talk about all the things that you need to know, and to get to know the other students. So first of all, you will be given a welcome. So you'll meet the team, the teaching and the administrative team, and we will give you some very practical information and connect you, of course, to the Wi-Fi. So please bring your laptop from day one. You need your laptop with you at all times. If you don't have a laptop now, please buy one, because it is your main tool, your main equipment that you need to be a student in France. And an iPad is not sufficient. You need a laptop. It can be a Mac if you prefer, but you need a laptop. So please bring it with you during the orientation week, all week. We will also talk about how to register with a doctor, how to open a bank account, how to apply for the housing allowance. We'll talk about your safety, your welfare, and we'll do a little campus tour. And then you'll meet your tutors, your English language tutor and your business tutors. We'll talk a little bit about France and life in France, things that you can do on your own at the weekends. We will look at the different systems that we use at ONCAMPUS and at Kedge. So we use a student system called Moodle, and this is your virtual learning environment where the tutors will put all the PowerPoints, all the presentations, all the work things that you need to read for assessments, etc. Everything will be there. There's also a student portal. You'll be given a student card. We have an app that you can use, and you will see your timetable on the app. And you will also have access to Office 365. And this is really important for for your life as a student, because you will need to prepare presentations using PowerPoint, and you will need to write essays and reports using Word. And you will also need to use Excel for some of your business subjects. We have a student handbook, so we'll look at that. We will go to the Kedge library and also the François Mitterrand library, which is the national library in France, and it's not very far from here. So it's a nice place to go to visit. It's a really good place to study. If you want a quiet place to study with access to all the books, then it's a great place to go. There are some things that you need to know about living in Paris, things that you can and cannot do, the laws, cultural norms, and of course we have emergency numbers that we will give you so that in case of emergency you can always contact either me or one of my colleagues. And then we'll go and discover Paris a little bit. We'll go to the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, and a few other places as well. So you get your bearings so that you get to understand a little bit more about how Paris works. And I'm going to say it again, bring your laptop every day during orientation and every day that you have classes. Now, Friday is empty, and we decided that as much as possible, we would like to give students a long weekend. So we try to organize our timetable every week so that we teach Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday as free time for you. It also means that we work from home on Fridays. We're still contactable, but we're not physically in the office. And this will be the case in September, but in January it may change. So we expect all students to arrive in Paris and be ready to start their orientation on the 25th of September. And then the following week, we start teaching. And here we have some pictures of some of our students from this current year. On the top left, you can see that the students, they went out and they went to a park. There are many, many parks in Paris, and this was in the winter time, but it was a beautiful sunny day. And they went to discover the gardens of Luxembourg. And you can see that they come from lots and lots of different countries. We have, at the moment, 12 different nationalities, and I'm hoping that next year we will have about 20 different nationalities, which is fantastic. We get students to do a lot of building exercises, and on the bottom left-hand side, the students, we asked them to build a machine out of paper that will sort different sized balls, so big balls and little balls. And here you can see that they were doing that. And we also know that everybody has, in their cultures, they have celebrations, they have things that they want to celebrate. They could be religious, they could be national holidays. So we try and celebrate as many of these as possible. And here it was Chinese New Year, and so the business school was decorated for that, and we had a lovely little celebration with lots of delicious foods. We sometimes get asked what to do. What am I going to do in my first week? Most of these things will be very practical, but also I think you need to spend time just relaxing and experiencing France, because it's going to be a huge change. The weather will be different, the language is different, the people are different, the supermarkets, the food, everything is different. And you may find that a little overwhelming. So we're here to help you to navigate that first week, and of course the following weeks. But we always say one really important thing is to make sure that you contact your family and friends. So phone home. That's one thing that your family will want you to do as well, to know that you're okay, that you've arrived, and that you're all right. That's one really important thing. I would always say go and find where to buy food. Don't want to be 10 o'clock at night and all the shops are closed and you can't find any food. It's dreadful. So make sure that you know where the supermarkets are. You may also find some specialist supermarkets, so an Asian supermarket or an African supermarket, or where you can buy herbs and spices and foods that you know and like, so that you can cook your own home cooking. We also like students to do something a bit different. Try to step out of your comfort zone. Don't just stay in your room and only do the things that we ask you to do. Go and do something a little bit different as well. I'm sure that you will make 1 friend, 2 friends, 3 friends very quickly on arrival. And with those friends, go and visit something. When you're not here working, when you're not, you're not studying, so outside those times, go off and do something more interesting. Go and visit a museum or take a boat down the Seine. Lots and lots of things to do, or just walk around central Paris, because it is beautiful. And you will see things and think, oh, I'd like to come back here and discover more. And you can't do everything in the first week. So make sure that you pace yourselves as well. You'll need to do practical things. So you need to buy a Navigo card. This card will allow you to travel around central Paris on a bus, on a tram, on the metro. So the sooner you get the card, the better, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper for you. A piece of advice really is to get all the paperwork done as soon as you can. And there is a bit of paperwork to do, but we will help you with that. And then once it's done, you're finished. So then you can concentrate on your studies and concentrate on enjoying life in Paris. Another thing you can do is to sign up to a student society or a sports club. This is a very good way of meeting new people. Kedge Business School has a lot of different student societies and sports associations. And if they don't have a sports association that suits you, you can create one, or you can, of course, always find a club outside Ketch. And the other thing that I like to suggest is try something different. If you've never had a croissant, try a croissant, or try French bread, try a pâtisserie, try, I don't know, a new French dish, something that you've not had before, and do that from time to time. It'll broaden your horizons and make you feel bold and proud that you've done something new. So these are all things that you can do in your first week. And we will encourage you. We'll encourage you to go out and discover new things, new places to go. Throughout the year in Paris, there are lots of different events going on, and a lot of these are free. Today, for example, it's the music festival, and this is a national music festival. So all over France, anybody who likes music, who can play music, is invited to go into the streets and to enjoy music. So here in Kedge today, between 12 and 4 o'clock, some of our students will be performing, and we are all invited to go and listen to them, and we'll have some food at the same time. And then this evening, my plan is to go out into Paris, central Paris, and just walk around, and I will find free concerts, maybe one that I really like, and I'll just sit down and I'll have a coffee and listen to the free music. So that's happening today. And there are many different things like that happening all over the place, all over Paris, all over France at different times of the year. And we will warn the students in advance so that they can also enjoy them too. One final thing to think about is the Olympics. So Paris is the venue for the 2024 Olympics, and students can get involved with this. So it's possible now to volunteer. There is a website that you go to and you can say, look, I'm an international student. I speak English, I speak Bahasa, for example, or and then I can maybe help. I can volunteer. I can help maybe with welcoming people or showing them to their seats in different venues or selling merchandising. There are lots and lots of different ways to volunteer during the Olympics. And this is, I think, a fantastic human experience, but it's also very good for your CV, for your resume. If you have on your CV that I volunteered at the Paris Olympics, people will ask about it and say, wow, that was a fantastic experience for you. What did you do? And it will engage conversation, and it makes you, in some way, it makes you more employable. And that is, of course, one of the goals that you should be having, that you are more employable, that you will find the dream job that you want once you have finished your education in France, once you've graduated. And this is one way of doing it, by volunteering at the Paris Olympics. And I have finished. So if you have any questions, I and Jennifer and the rest of the team are here to to answer any of the questions that you have. So the floor is yours.
Caroline, do you see the chat? I think there's been quite a few questions.
I'm not surprised. Okay, I have the chat. So let's start from the top. Yeah. So one question is, please let me know if ONCAMPUS provides certificate of accommodation. So yes, we provide, because a student, if they choose accommodation through ONCAMPUS or through Kedge, then the certificate will be provided by ONCAMPUS or by Kedge, depending on who the student chooses to get their accommodation. Okay, another question. Is it a fixed lease? Yes, the dates are fixed. I do not have them in my head. But a student, if they start their program in September, with ONCAMPUS, then the lease dates will be the week before the orientation starts and up to a week after the end of term. So that is fine. And the same for Kedge. Their dates are slightly different because they start teaching earlier than we do. Kedge students will start at the beginning of September. We start towards the end. Can master's direct students apply for on-campus managed accommodation? I think they can. Now, I'm not entirely sure about that, but the on-campus managed accommodation includes the Noe campus, which is also managed by Kedge. So one way or the other, it is possible to apply for that accommodation. I will need to find out exactly how that can be done. Maybe we can get back to you for that one, Julia. But yes, it should be possible. Okay, now question, who will conduct the visa and Kedge interview? All right, the visa interview is conducted by a member of Campus France, and depending on the country, it could be somebody from the Alliance Française. So and I've met one person who it was that case. These people, they work for the French government, and their job is to make sure that the students are eligible to study in France and also that they have the interest to study in France. And the Kedge interviews, there are always two people present. One will be the director of a particular program, and the second is usually from a company, so that it gives a different aspect to the interview. Both interviews are conducted in the forms of question and answer. So it's more of a discussion. And you shouldn't be really scared about it, because everybody wants students to succeed, okay? Particularly the Kedge interview, they really want to be positive. They want to see the best in the students. So the visa interviews are conducted by French officials, but it will be in English. And the Kedge interviews are also in English with a mixed group director of the program that the student is applying for and somebody from a company. Another question, if the international students apply for CAF, will they always get it? Yes, to my knowledge, yes. I've not had any student refused CAF. How long is the work visa granted to graduates from Kedge? It depends on the kind of visa that the student applies for. So it can be a 1-year visa, particularly for students from some countries. But generally it is a 2-year visa. Now, for further information about that, I'm not a visa specialist, so it's best to ask our visa team about that, because they will have more information. But it is generally 1 year, and in some cases it is 2 years. And then they can be renewed afterwards as well. If the student is in a stable job, they meet the payment threshold so that they're earning over a certain amount, it can be then renewed. And then the student can apply also for residence in France. Is there a chance to apply for the Kedge scholarship? And what are the thresholds? Okay, so there are different scholarships. Sorry, Jennifer, you had your hand up.
Oh, sorry, you can finish the
Okay.
you can finish this
Okay.
question first. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, for the scholarships, there are different kinds of scholarships. And the first one that we encourage all students to apply for is the early bird scholarship. And this year, the cutoff, the deadline was the 31st of March. So all our students, we encourage them to apply and to apply for Kedge before that deadline. And all our students received the early bird scholarship, which is a 10% discount on their fees. So that's one type of scholarship. Then there are different scholarships for excellence and for merit, and also for financial hardship. So there are these 4 different types. So one is the early bird, which is a 10% scholarship. Secondly, an excellence. And this is a file that the student has to put together to demonstrate that they are an excellent student academically. And there are different levels of these scholarships. So the excellence and the merit, at the top of my head, I think it's 2,000 and 1,000 scholarships off the fees, and they are cumulative with the early bird scholarship. There is also a financial hardship scholarship. So if a student, for whatever reason, maybe not in the first year, but in the second year or third year, if their financial situation changes or something happens that means that they are no longer able to pay for their studies in the same way that they had hoped, or had been for the past year, then students can apply for the financial hardship scholarship, and they need to prove that they no longer have access to the funds that they had or that they had planned on having. So it's up to Kedge. If they feel that the person, that the student really would benefit greatly from their help, then they will also provide a financial scholarship. Where are we? Let's go on to the next one. Okay, for stay back visa, do students have the option of applying the APS or job seeker? Okay. Yeah, it depends on what the student is going to do. If a student is a job seeker, then they would apply for this the visa to allow them to stay in France, usually for 1 year. And during that time, so they are actively looking for a job. Hopefully, they will find the job very quickly. Most students seem to have a job offer before they graduate. So this is really good news for students. And that means that once you have the job offer, it's very easy then to change the visa to the job, a working visa. If a student wants to create a business, then that is a different route. And this can be for 1 or 2 years. And it can be renewed. Both of them can be renewed. So France is actively encouraging students to stay. They want international students to stay in France because they know that they need good brains, they need good minds to make France an even more successful economy. And one way of doing that is to attract international students to stay behind. So now we have a student. I have an acceptance letter already, and the course starts the 19th of September. May I know which means the orientation week will start after my course started? I need to know, is this for Kedge or is this for ONCAMPUS? I think that it's for ONCAMPUS, but I'm not sure. It's for Ketch. Okay. All right. So if you have an acceptance letter with the 19th of September, this means that orientation will start on that date. Your question was, may I know which means the orientation week will start after my course started. The 19th is the date that they expect you to arrive at Kedge. So you will have orientation from the 19th, and then your classes will start a few days later. Okay. Any date that is on your acceptance letter is the date that you need to arrive on campus. Yeah, actually at Kedge Business School. Okay, Vivian, you were asking about the APS. A graduate will be able to find a full-time job. A student, if you have a student status, then you can only work the 964 hours. But once you have changed status to a worker and you have a work visa, you can work full-time. Jennifer, you had something to add for that?
Nothing to add to that, but just wondering, because you mentioned that we have a visa team. Is that the Ketch visa team or on campus?
That both in fact. So if a student is applying directly to Kedge, then it would be good to contact her. Her name is Elvira. and I can circulate her contact details to the CEG team, and then you can give that information out as necessary. And then our own CEG visa team, they will also be able to advise on the post-study opportunities in France.
Okay, I'll email you to get their contact.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, can you take the opportunity to clarify the French proficiency requirement for progression? Okay, so yes, the French proficiency is something that we put into our on-campus pack, but it is actually not a requirement. It does say that it's a requirement on the offer letter, and it's a mistake. It is a mistake, and we are in the middle of getting that rectified. So an international student does not need to provide any proof that they know any French at all. So if a student comes to study at ONCAMPUS Paris, we will teach the students French. We would expect them to reach an A1, A2 level at the end of the year. And we can provide Kedge with the details of the level of the student, but it is not a requirement for progression. Can pre-master students apply to study at NOE campus? Yes. So NOE campus is the accommodation that is run by Kedge Business School, and yes, they can, of course, yes. So the students are in different blocks according to their ages as well. So we wouldn't expect a master's level student who is likely to be at least 22 or 23, sometimes more. We wouldn't necessarily expect them to be in the same block as a student who is 18. They will have different objectives. But students can also say, I want to be with another person, and they will do their best to make sure that they are close by or on the same floor. But yes, pre-master students can apply to study, to live at NOE.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So someone's been messaging me. So if a student studied foundation or pre-master, and then they lived at NO, and then they progress to their whatever degree they are gonna study, can they still apply for to stay at NO?
Yes, they can. Yes, of course. There or any of the other accommodations that Kedge runs, but this one we like because it's 20 minutes on foot from Kedge, so it's really close. It's really close, and it's very modern. It's big. It has all the facilities that students would like. So yes, they can, of course, stay. But they will need to then renew their contract in order to stay the second year. I can see there's another question as well. So students already meet the English requirements for progression, say at TOEIC score. Will they need to take an exit IELTS? No, they do not. No. So students who study at ONCAMPUS, they will be given an English language score, or they already meet the requirements because they have a previous TOEIC, for example, and this is sufficient for Kedge for when they progress to Kedge Business School. Are there any other questions?
I guess everyone's already asked their questions.
Okay, all right. One thing I didn't say was that in the 6 weeks before students come to Paris, we will send out once a week a little email to every student, giving them some information to help them plan for coming to study in France. So it could be, what to pack, what the weather's going to be like, or just little helpful things. And we'll also make sure that the students have the opportunity to talk to us directly. So we will organize sessions like this with the students so that they can meet each other. I think it's important. Okay. Aha. Well, thank you. Thank you all very much. If you have any other questions, something that comes to your mind, please don't hesitate to get in contact, either with myself or a member of anybody in your region in the team, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can with a good answer. Thank you also for your attendance, and it's been quite a long session. And thank you, Jennifer, also for organizing this.
Thank you so much, Caroline. This has been really informative.
Great. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you all soon. Okay. Bye-bye then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.